Hi, welcome to the third of the three-part series on shamanic healing techniques. And today we're going to be looking at space clearing. But I'd like to remind you about what shamanism is. Shamanism is an ancient healing system and wisdom system that is practiced around the world. Shamans are the doctors, the mediators, the educators, the diviners, and the ceremonialists. And they provide these services to the people in the communities in which they live. And we will be looking today at a ceremonial and healing practice that is called space clearing. And one of the things about space clearing is that it is something that is considered to be completely normal and natural in societies where there is an understanding about the role of spirit and the relationship to energetic events and spirit events in terms of the material world. And again, from the shamanic worldview, the world around us, all of the landscape and the lakes and the trees and the flowers and the animals are the physical aspect of our experience. But within them is an unseen power. And that power is what shamans are always interacting with and learning from and learning about as they serve the communities that they work in. And so it's understood that there is this unseen experience that is related to seen experience. And this is something that is not that commonly understood or maybe even believed in modern Western culture. But the truth is, we work with unseen powers all the time, and we work with the perceptions of the unseen all the time without necessarily articulating it in that way. So for instance, I'm not sure, but you may have had this experience, or maybe someone you know has had this experience, where you check into a hotel and you get to your room and you realize this room feels weird. Like, this does not feel good. And I don't feel very comfortable here. Can't really relax in it. And, I had a friend that had exactly that same experience, and she went back to the desk after not being able to really settle in the room. And she said, look, there's something going on in that room. I don't really want to stay in that room. And the desk clerk said, well, yeah, we had some trouble in that room with some guests a few weeks ago. And I can understand. And the desk clerk didn't tell her any more, but it was pretty clear that something bad had happened in that room. And so you may have had that kind of experience, or perhaps you've been in a situation where you've walked in with two people who are arguing or have just been arguing, and then they're trying to pretend that everything is okay, and you're feeling like there's something going on here that I feel uncomfortable with in this space, and I think I'm going to leave now, right? So you're responding to something unseen. You're responding to something that doesn't seem to have any kind of material reason for the discomfort that it's causing. And it's understood from a shamanic point of view that events in the unseen world do affect events on the material level. And this is where space clearing comes in. And often space clearings are done in spaces where something serious has happened, and perhaps someone has died in a space, or perhaps where there has just been some, like an argument or an unpleasant event in the space. And as a matter of course, even when nothing necessarily negative has happened in a space, in a traditional setting, in many cultures, you will have shamans who create a ceremony to clear the space of any kind of tangential energies that do not have to do with the ceremony that's getting ready to take place in the space that the shaman is preparing. So in almost every situation where you have a ceremony that will take place, in most cultures, you will have a process of clearing the space before the ceremony takes place. And this is in an effort to create as clear and powerful a pathway for the helping spirits to move through the ceremonial rituals to be able to accomplish the goals of the ceremony. And so space clearing is very important. And I know myself, I've been working, teaching for 25 years. I've been seeing clients on a one-on-one basis for longer than that, maybe 30 years. And I always clear the space before I work, either one-on-one, and when I create the space for a class to happen in, I spend a lot of time clearing the space and calling the power of the helping spirits into the room where we'll be working so that the teaching goes more smoothly, and so that teachers, other teachers who may be teaching with me and myself are able to communicate clearly, and that students are able to receive the information. And I'd like to tell you about a story around the issues that can happen when you don't have a clear space to work in. So I have the good fortune now of being able to work primarily in the Sacred Stream Center in Berkeley, California. And this is a beautiful old Lutheran church that is actually built on old ceremonial ground where the Ohlone Indians once lived in the area of Berkeley. It's on the banks of a year-round creek, and it's on the site of an old shell mound, which was the ceremonial space for these people. So the building really does hold sacred space well, and people who walk into the space who know nothing about the way that the non-material world affects material experience will often say, what is this about this space? What is this? It seems so special. And it's because we have this marvelous legacy of this sacred use of the space over hundreds of years. And we also work on a regular basis to clear the space and to keep it clear. So I have this wonderful, possibility. But we recently were asked to teach in another space, and this is another school for consciousness studies here in the Bay Area, and there had been a lot of difficulties in that particular community, and that was one of the reasons I was asked to go teach there, is to try to bring some new blood and some new teachings and to some new perspectives to the community, to try to bring some hope and consciousness and awareness, and to really kind of help reestablish the community after they lost their major teacher to scandal, and they had a lot of people feeling very betrayed and very upset. And so we were really trying to offer our assistance in helping a fellow community. So we got there, and it was very difficult to teach. I felt like I was kind of speaking through molasses. Even though we had set space, even though we had done what we usually do, there were some certain parts of the ceremony that they did not want us to do in that space, which made it difficult to clear it. So that evening, I managed to teach, the students managed to learn, but I said, we really can't continue teaching like this the next day. We have to have a full space clearing. So we called all the members who were local in our Space Clearing Society, which is part of what it's a group of people who offer space clearing to other healers, which are defined very loosely, people who are helping other people. And we have a large group here in the Bay Area, and we called upon the local people. And within an hour, we had 5 people that were ready to do the ceremony to clear the space. And when you're doing space clearings, you do a ceremony. You work with drums, you bring empowered objects into the space, you work with other sound, and you burn certain types of herbs, clearing herbs such as sage and copal. And this helps clear the non-material aspect of any physical space. And so we worked, the five of us, for about 45 minutes, each one of us clearing different parts of the space, each one of us drumming, all of us being supported by the home circle who were grounding and helping clear, even as the other practitioners were working directly with the imprints of the energies that were creating difficulty. And so we worked for this amount of time, and then I reset the circle for the class for the day. And I can't tell you the difference in being able to feel like I was really communicating what I needed to communicate in my teaching. And one by one, students said, "Did something happen in the space? The space feels really different." And these were people in that community who were used to being in the space before it was cleared. So they really did notice a difference. And I certainly noticed a difference as I was teaching. And I think that, this is a helpful story to remember, if you're having difficulties, say for instance at work. Let's say you have an office, one time we were called to clear a hospital, and in the break room there was so much sadness and heaviness in the space, and the people who were helping other people came there to process, and a lot of the worry and concern that they had for their patients was there in the room. And so we cleared that space, and everything changed for the people who were working there. So if you have something going on at work where you feel like things are not going as well as you think they might be, you can think about doing a space clearing. Or if you're living in a house where it seems like, things don't come together, where you don't really feel that comfortable, you don't really sleep that well, think about having a space clearing. And this is something that there are people who know how to do. Certainly you can connect with shamanic practitioners in your area, or there are shamanic practitioners that do work non-locally. One of the important things to know about all shamanic work is that it is non-local and it can be done at a distance. So remember space clearing whenever you come into a space, and whenever you want to create something that's really positive in that space. Think about clearing the space and calling power so that you will have the support for anything that you want to accomplish in that space.